Dr. Bowman, we are streaming.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Board of Education Finance Committee meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order. So first I'm doing Dr. Albright. May I have a roll call, please?
Janelle Astorga.
Here.
Rebecca Betson.
Here.
Heather Benavides. Courtney Jackson.
Here.
Orikia Bowman.
Here. So our first item is to consider adoption of the January 29th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting agenda. So may I ask for a motion and a second to consider this agenda item?
I move we adopt the January 29th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting agenda. This is Member Jackson.
And I make a motion to second it. This is Member Betson.
So Courtney Jackson made the motion and Rebecca Betson seconded the motion. And the motion was to adopt the January 29th, 2026 agenda. So is there any discussion? There's none. No. Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, so there's no discussion. May we have a roll call vote, please, Dr. Albright?
Janelle Astorga.
Yes.
Rebecca Betson.
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Chair Bowman.
Yes. So the motion carried. So our next item is the public forum comments limited to agenda items.
Chair
And-
Bowman did not have anybody sign up for public forum today.
Okay. So no one signed up for public comment, so we are going to move on to the next agenda item. So our next item is to consider approval of December 2025 interfunction transfers for the grant budget. And our presenters are Renetta Apodaca, our Chief Financial Officer, and Mihaela Marin. Did I say that right?
Madam Chair.
Mihaela Marin, Senior Director, Grant Management. Ms. Apodaca and Ms. Marin, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, the item for consideration for approval is the interfunction transfers for grant budget per the PSAB Supplement 1 and the APS Board of Education budget policy. Any budget amendments or adjustments require board approval. So this meets those requirements. And I do have Ms. Marin here on the meeting to answer any questions.
Ms. Apodaca and Ms. Marin, could you, for the committee, show us the slide of what the interfunction transfers for the grant budget are?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, I believe I will need the support of the board office to complete this action.
Okay.
Mihaela,
Should
you
we-
should, I'm sorry, Dr. Bowman, pardon me. Mihaela, you should have the availability to share if you would like to share that now.
Certainly. Thank you.
I know we talked about this at the last board meeting, but I think it's good to remind ourselves of what exactly we're talking about.
Certainly. Is my screen shared?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. Madam
Can
Chair,
you make it a
members of-
little bigger? Ms. Mihaela? Ms. Marin? Do you say Marin or how do you pronounce your last name?
Marin.
Marin. Thank you so much. Okay, would you like to walk us through these inter-grant transfers. Am I correct, Ms. Marin, that this is self-enclosed in the sense that the money, there's no money coming in and out, it's just moving it around? Is that correct, Ms. Marin? Marin?
Madam Chair, yes, all interfunction and intra-function transfer are zero-sum transfers. They are just reallocation based on identified needs, as in, let's say a teacher identifies that they don't they have budget allocated for, let's say, supplies, but they need a desk. If that is the case, then the budget needs to be reallocated from supplies to assets to purchase that desk. For the interfunction transfers for grant management for the month of December 2025, we have, as you notice over here, it's a zero-sum transfer. You are being presented with the transfers between the various functions and a short description of what these functions can cover. Then you are presented with the overall effect of the interfunction transfers throughout the current fiscal year by month. And then you are presented with a summary. So basically, different views of the same data.
Okay. Could we, Ms. Marin, can we go back to the last slide, please, or last page? So on this page, all categorical interfunction transfers, can you identify for us which line is the instruction line? Oh, okay.
The definition of what we're tracking in here is not direct instruction or support instruction. So it is not by function, it is by the purpose of the expense target of the budget transfer. So in this case, we are seeing how much is being allocated for compensation, which is basically salaries and benefits, how much is allocated for professional development, and then how do they fluctuate across the fiscal year. As you will notice, we usually do not have a lot of fluctuation because all grant funds are very heavily regulated and have to be pre-approved and align exactly with the grantor's application, mainly our major grantor being the New Mexico Public Education Department. And the New Mexico is a state that works on reimbursement for grants. Therefore, any deviation that is not approved or pre-approved as necessary for each grant is not reimbursed. So we have to stick exactly to the predetermined plan for these fundings. So you will see very, very rarely significant changes in our budget transfers that are approved in the application. Going
Thank you, Ms.
forward,
going back to the first slide, the first page you had, just because this is our first meeting, I'm just going to ask a lot of questions. I hope that's okay. So can you just tell me I see that we're moving money into instruction, and can you just tell me, I mean, this is grant money, so I assume this is part of the grant background, but just give me the rationale for moving that money into instruction.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, all the transfers are being generated by school rationale, filtered through department oversight. So these funds are being implemented at the schools. And if a need is identified, like I said, then a budget transfer is generated. So let's say a principal fills out, works with, let's say the Title I department. So a school identifies a need, a teacher identifies a need. It goes to the principal, the principal fills out a budget transfer form and signs off on it. And then they submit it to the department overseeing these funds, which is the Title I, II, and III department. They will verify the alignment, the allowability under the grant and the alignment with the approved application and with the direction in which overall the district is going, basically the alignment with the goals and guardrails. And then they will submit the budget they will sign off on the budget transfer and submit it to grants management. Grants management will process it. And when we post this process, it turns into the data you are seeing.
Okay. So going down to the fourth, is it the fourth page or the third page? The one after the lines. Yes, that one. So it looks like we moved some professional development money into supplies and materials and some software money to salaries and benefits. Do we know what school or schools that affected?
So this is where we go into the higher level detail, which is the line by line. So
Okay.
over here is where we can identify, for example, I see 2 of the schools that were affected by these transfers.
Okay. So we moved professional development to general supplies and materials, and that was the decision of the school?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, members of the board, the decisions with the funds allocated to the schools, and most grant funds are allocated to the schools, start at the school level.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt your presentation. Please continue presenting, Ms. Maran. Ms.
Not a-
Marin.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. All the funds follow the same rationale that we just walked through. So, like I said, you are being provided with different views of the same data. This is the highest level of the data, and then I usually like to bring to the board's attention if there is anything that might require some additional explanations. So presenting for your consideration of approval, the grant management interfunction transfers for December 2025. The 2 items on the agenda on this month's transfer list that I wanted to bring to your attention based on new format of the board are the transfers in our improving adolescent health grant that you will see aligning budget with the approved application. We cannot start spending per New Mexico Public Education Department's regulation a budget until an application is significantly approved. So the moment we have an application significantly approved, you will notice that we are pushing from the grant management holding account budget out to be start spending. And then the other component that I wanted to bring to your attention under the same rationale is the Math Lab pilot grant realignment. The component over dictating this major shift is the fact that New Mexico Public Education Department changed the uniform chart of accounts to allow professional development for teachers in the function 2200. But when we have to pay substitutes to support those teachers being out of the classroom and attending that professional development, those substitutes, again, per the regulation, have to be in the function 1000. So in this case, we are only aligning the funding to where it can be paid to complete that professional development and paying for the substitutes to cover it. Other than
Oh.
that, I did not see anything out of the ordinary, and I stand for questions.
I have one last question. The math lab, where is that located? Is that at Del Norte or where is it?
I do not have that information right at my fingertips, but I will make sure to follow up and provide the board office this information to provide to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Do other board members have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
No questions for me, and I just want to share that my camera is off just because my Zoom is glitching, but I am here.
Thank you, Board Member Astorga. Ms. Marin, could you make your page a little bit bigger for me? Okay. All right, well, I really appreciate your detailed explanation, and it made a lot of sense. So thank you so much, Ms. Marin. Moving to the next agenda item, our next item is to consider approval of the December 2025 interfunction transfers for the grant budget.
Madam Chair, members of the, oh, go ahead.
I feel like we just repeated that item.
Madam Chair, Board Member Superintendent Blakey, this one is for the intra function. So
Okay.
the previous one was the inter function. So now we're doing the intra function for grant budget. And again, according to the APS Board of Education policy, any budget amendments or adjustments require board approval. So this meets that requirement. And again, funds are moved to where they're needed, and they don't change the budget overall. So Ms. Marin can go through the documents.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam,
Thank you so much, Ms. Apodaca. Ms. Marin, could you explain for the board members what each of these lines means in terms of intra-function transfers?
certainly. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Blakey presenting for your consideration of approval the grant management intra-function transfers for the month of December 2025. Similar to the inter-functions, we are starting with a graph depicting the overall budget transfer effect for intra-function transfers throughout the current fiscal year. The intra-function transfers are transfers within the same function. If the inter-function transfers presented to you earlier were moving between instruction, support instruction, and other functions, if applicable, then we are, at this point in time, we are moving within the same function. The net effect is always 0, but we are moving, let's say, within the function 1000. It's just repurposing as needed for identified needs. Let me make sure that I do not close the particular document. Again, you are being provided with different view of exactly the same data, just to be able to easily assimilate the information that, especially in intra-function transfers, is highly voluminous. It is the everyday processing of the school's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So we see, as that is the case.
Okay, that's good. That page is helpful. Can we make that slightly bigger
Certainly.
and go to the top? Start at the top.
So
We can't see the
intra-function-
numbers on the right-hand side now. Yeah, that's good.
these are everyday slight movements or corrections or cleanup or repurposing. So the volume for it is usually very high. In this case, I am seeing, I believe we have, this entire document has 31 pages.
Okay.
So you are seeing a lot of slight adjustments. For example, at Trisco, you will see a quick movement in professional development. The New Mexico Public Education Department does not allow professional development to be billed until the actual professional development happened. So if a Trisco Elementary has a teacher that is going to attend a professional development conference, they, of course, would prefer to pay the early bird price and save the school funding. So registration, airfare, hotel reservation will usually happen or be prepaid as soon as the travel has been approved by the principal and the district department overseeing the funding. At that point in time, we will the teacher will complete the registration process, the airfare, purchasing, and so on. But because we cannot, and we work on reimbursement, we cannot ask for that reimbursement at that point in time. We have to log this as a prepaid professional development. And that is when we use the account 533301. When we are ready to ask for reimbursement because the conference already took place, you will notice that we are moving the budget in the correct account to bill. And you will see this recurringly throughout this document that says moving professional development to billable account.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you for that extremely detailed explanation. It makes more sense. I appreciate that. So basically, we don't have time to go through all 30 pages of this, but I will.
It is usual. It's the ongoing small decisions or small corrections that need to be done throughout every month. And this is the result of all those small changes brought to your attention per the board policy requirement.
And Chair Bowman and members of the committee, we also do try to get this to you in advance so that if there is anything that stands out, you can use this time to ask questions about specific items. And you can also send the questions ahead of time if you see something that is out of the ordinary. Overall, with a lot of these, they are school specific, and you know, most of the schools make that decision at the site level, and you know, finance kind of looks at it to make sure everything is fine, but trusts their judgment and where they need to move money around after the school year has started.
Do any board members have questions? Thank you, Superintendent Duran.
I have, this is Board Member Betson. I have a question. So I am looking at, I remember being when I was in the schools and there was a certain time, you know, that you had to do these by. And so I'm looking at, it's under student support and academic enrichment. That's the, I think the category, and it's the Office of Federal and State Programs, and there's 103,000, you know, give or take a little bit. Like this time of year, do you have problems? Like, are you worried about not being able to spend this money? Is that why they're moving it? Is because they're trying to make sure they're going to be able to spend it in time?
Board Member Betson, the Federal and State Program Department that oversees the budget on all federal and state grants, which compile the largest percentage, the significant percentage of grants budget, completes a process of quarterly notifications and collaborations with the schools to let them know where their spending is, what is the remaining balance, if they collaborate with them on any support needed, and trying to provide them with the tools to ensure that this year's allocation is spent on this year's students, because our allocations are usually generated based on our students.
Okay, so basically that, like on that particular one, that $103,000 is divided up into these categories that are right above it, right? Is that what I'm understanding? Do you see which one I'm talking about?
No, board member
Done.
Besson, I'm trying to identify it. I apologize.
It's on page 1 of the grant management department, the interfunction transfer detail. It's under the detail. And it's third category down.
Interfunction transfers.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I pulled, yeah. Actually, I think you're getting close. Let's see. Right there, that one.
Oh.
So like that 103,000 was in the other contract services, is that correct? And then what they did is they took it and divided it up into those where they saw fit, that it was going to need, like, we're going to need like 74,000 in salaries. We're going to need 13,000 in education retirement association. Is that correct?
That is correct, board member Betson. It usually is it is aligned based on what is defined as the best use of the funds. It is usually documented, and then the budget transfer is being submitted for approval. In this case, we can see a community schools resource teacher being identified as being needed to support our schools.
Okay, in that particular category?
Board member Besson, yes.
Okay.
You in the justification area, we always provide you with the information associated with the data above. If the information above the justification is significant in volume, then we will identify the highest amounts and provide you with the justifications for that.
Okay.
Then we will tie those justifications with the goal or guardrail that is being completed for. And that goal and guardrail, it is not determined by grant management. It is determined by the funding source. In this case, if it's generated at the Office of the Federal and State Programs, then they tied it correctly into the justification. Or if it's provided by school, then they tie it into the goal and guardrail that they are following.
And I see that the department is, for this particular one, just student support, academic enrichment with the associate superintendent's office. So this is a community school resource teacher that's going to work with the associate superintendent's office, or why is it not tied to a school, I guess is what I'm asking.
Board member Betson, I can do some in-depth research on this to provide you with more information. But overall, at the umbrella level, I can confirm that sometimes it is more efficient budgetary to track personnel at the district level when that personnel is serving multiple locations. So when we have a resource teacher or a community school coordinator or a nurse that could be split between several locations, it is easier for us to track it at a centralized level and assign that person as needed to whichever location is the best use of their time.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Board Member Betson, that was a really good question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, since there are no questions, I'm going to move to the next agenda item. Our next item is to consider approval of December 2025 inter-function transfers for all non-categorical funds. And we're going to hear from Ms. Apodaca, the Chief Financial Officer, and Ms. Hicks, Senior Director of Budget and Strategic Planning. And Ms. Apodaca and Ms. Hicks, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, just like the previous two items that we went over, we are going to go over the interfunction for all non-categorical or non-grant funds, which is primarily operational funds. Again, in accordance with the PSAB Supplement 1 and board policy, any budget adjustments or amendments require board approval. This meets the requirements, and these funds are moved to where they're needed, and there is no change in the overall budget. And I'll hand it over to Ms. Hicks.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. This agenda item requests your approval of 11 interfunction budget transfers in the operational function totaling $141K. 8 of the 11 transfers use at-risk funds, and the remaining 3 use general funds. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Hicks, could you please show us, share your screen with me and the fellow board members so we can take a look at what you've got going on over there? And make it as big as you can stand to. Great.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So as in the grant funding, this is an interfunction. These are interfunction budget transfers, which means we are moving funds from one purpose to another. So you can see here, let me go down a little bit. You can see here that we are moving money from compensation and other purposes to, let me take one example. So in compensation, we're decreasing compensation and decreasing it for some transfers and increasing it by 59,000 for other transfers. And in non-compensation, we're decreasing it for some at 49 and increasing for others at 82.
Okay, so unlike the Ms. Hicks, unlike the previous section, this is not zero sum?
It is zero sum.
It is zero sum.
Yes.
Okay, so can you explain to us about the decision making in terms of reducing? It's a little hard for me to understand this, but it looks like we went down 0.5 FTE on teachers, or what happened there?
Principals. Let me actually go down to the detail so that this is easier. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the first transfer. Overall, what we did in this one is we redistributed budget to fund teacher stipends, a 0.1 FTE teacher extended contract, and instructional supplies. And now let me show you the dollars. So where we took those funds and the FTE is, if you see this principal line, this is not the principal herself, but the assistant principal, and the school is Corrales K-8. And what we did is we took a third of the assistant principal's salary, the associated benefits, We reduced those and we increased stipends for teachers, which is this 18,685, and then the associated benefits. We also increased general supplies by $3,600 roughly. And I must have missed the extended contract. There it is. This 6929 right here and the 0.1 FTE is an extended contract for a teacher. So it is a zero sum in dollars, but it is a net 0.23 reduction in FTE because we reduced the AP's FTE by 1/3, but we redistributed those funds to 3 different places, right? We redistributed about 19,000 to stipends for teachers. We gave a teacher an extended contract, and we also funded some supplies. The net dollar amount is 0, but there is a reduction in FTE of that assistant principal.
Ms. Hicks, I'm happy that we're giving teacher stipends, but I'm just curious where the 0.33 came, what happened? Did we have less, what happened? The hours reduced for an assistant principal? Or why were you able to take money out of the assistant principal?
I'm going to find
salary?
out. I'm going to find out for sure and confirm. But my guess is that it is unfilled. That piece of the AP is unfilled.
Chair Bowman and members of the committee, these are requested on the side of the schools. So often the budget analyst just works with the principal, who works with their instructional council to make sure that they have the funds to be able to do what they need to do. And as long as they have the funds and it fits within the purpose and the scope of their school, we typically trust that what the principal is asking for and moving around what they don't need. That's typically how these are generated, is from the school requesting it and the budget analyst helping them find the funds to continue their school year.
Okay, so do board members have any other questions on this subtopic? I believe Corrales is board member Betson's area.
Yes, it is. And actually, being in the schools, I know how, like, okay, we don't have an assistant principal, so we're going to pay a teacher a stipend to help do discipline or something like that. So yeah, this all makes sense to me.
Okay. Any other board member questions? So there are no questions. Let's move to the next agenda item. All right, our next item is to consider approval of December 2025 intra-function transfers for all non-categorical funds.
Okay. Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, the next action item is the intra for non-categorical, non-grant funds. Again, this is per the APS Board of Education policy that all budget adjustments or amendments require board approval. The key takeaway is these funds are moved to where they're needed and there's no change in the budget. And again, Ms. Hicks is here to speak on it.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, this agenda item requests your approval of intra-function budget transfers for all non-categorical funds totaling $510,000 in operational funds, $18.7 million in transportation funds, $75,000 in athletic funds, and $3.8 million in transportation enterprise funds, and finally $5.2 million in capital funds. As mentioned before, intra-function budget transfers it's money moved within the same purpose or category, and it is a zero sum.
Okay. So can we go down to fine arts so we can see the fine arts section?
Sure.
Okay.
And so in this case, what the Fine Arts Department asked us to do was take money from supplies on this line. And one of these is music and one of these is art. And then also take money from assets, more supplies, some software, some supplies, and they are redistributing it to other accounts within the same purpose. So the amounts in red are taking money away, and the amounts in black are where they're putting. So in this particular case, this department is either elementary or secondary, and they are moving 5668 out of supplies and putting it in assets.
Oh, Ms. Hicks, can you explain to me what assets are?
Yes, ma'am. Those are things that we purchase, that we inventory and depreciate. So we consider them to be capital, and we track them with an asset tag and depreciate them on our financial statements. So I guess I should give you an example. So an asset might be, I don't know, in an elementary school, it might be a laminator. It might be, I'm trying to think what else.
Computer.
A computer, sure.
Okay. All right, can we go down to Alamos and Mark Twain?
Mhm.
So what happened at Harrison Middle School with the salaries?
Okay, we are moving a 0.2 teacher
Mhm.
to, okay, what we've done is we've converted a 0.2 teacher, which is probably vacant, to teacher stipends, associated benefits, and subs, mostly subs.
Okay, so there's a vacant spot and so substitute is taking over in that situation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then Atrisco Heritage, can we look at that?
Mhm.
Janelle is board member Astorga, is that in your area?
Yes, so Trisco and Harrison, also Alamosa are all in my area.
Okay, so this
Okay.
one, we are converting a 0.13 teacher to general supplies and materials. Also probably vacant.
Okay, why would we, I mean, I know this is the school's decision, but whereas at Harrison, they moved money into stipends and substitute, in this situation, they're not doing that, they're moving it to supplies
Harrison or Atrisco?
at Atrisco.
Atrisco.
Well, it looked like at Harrison, they took the money and moved it to stipends and substitutes. But at Atrisco, they took the 0.13 and moved it to general supplies.
Yes, so either plans have changed or they, you know, put money in one line and they now need it in another line at this time. And
Okay.
it does originate from the school, as Superintendent Dr. Blakey said. We receive a request to move the funds, and we trust the principal is doing what they need to do for the school.
Okay. I guess board member Astorga, do you have any questions about that, Atrisco?
No, I don't have any questions at this time, but I do appreciate you facilitating this dialogue. It's super helpful to see what's going on. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of course we want to support our principals, but it's also nice to know why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, we want to defer to them within reason, but we also want to have some some accountability. Obviously, the superintendent, Dr. Blakey Duran, I suppose that's mostly her job, but I was just interested in that, the difference between the way Harrison and Nutrisco handled that money. Okay, so how many pages do we have on this part?
14.
Okay, can we go to the next page? See if there's anything exciting. Okay, so James Monroe. We changed compensation and moved it. Okay, that looks non-controversial. Monroe looks non-controversial. APS Police Department. Do you want to talk us through that just because it's $162,358?
Sure. Okay. What the APS Police Department is doing is they are just reclassifying the expense from one internal tracking program to another. They are taking 3 FTE that are currently sitting in coordinators. But if you look at the, so if you start from left to right, it says APS Police Department, and then it says 1,100, that's the operational fund. Then the next number is made up of the location. So the 3125 is the department number for APS Police. The next 3 numbers are the internal tracking program. So 950 means general department. They're moving those 3 coordinators from the general department to an internal tracking department number called 493, which I don't know off the top of my head what that is, but they know what it is. And all they're doing is they're just moving the money in the same exact job type from coordinator to coordinator. And just, they want to track that a little bit differently using a different internal program versus the general department.
Okay, that makes sense. So you moved 3 FTEs from one coordinator function to a different coordinator function, is that
Yes, ma'am.
correct? Ms.
Yes, ma'am.
Hicks? Okay, that looks fine. Can we keep going?
Oops.
Can we talk about FD and C maintenance salaries? What happened there?
Very similar to what happened in the police. We are taking 1 FTE, and this is M&O on the maintenance and operations on the operational side. We are taking 1 maintenance person and we are moving them from internal program number 410 to another internal program number 440. And I'm just going to make up an example. This could be moving someone from the painting area to, another internal department in M&O.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. So can we proceed, please, Ms. Hicks? This is just our first board meeting, so I just am being a little more detailed than normal.
Sure, happy to help.
Just so we're all on the same page. Board member Jackson, do you have any questions about the El Dorado move?
I do not. Thank you. I went through the packet beforehand and noticed this and did not submit any questions, and totally understand probably the need to learn a little bit, but just did want to point out that we do have the opportunity to review these documents well in advance in order to ask all of these questions. So I'm super grateful to the finance team for having answers readily available. And if and when I have questions, I will send them in advance.
Okay, so are there any other questions from board members? I just thought we should take a look at it because it is just a very large amount of money. If it's one thing, if it's 10,000, but it's another if it's, hundreds of thousands. So that's the reason I'm taking a look at it, harder than normal. But
And
I appreciate your point, Board Member Jackson. I know people can do it in advance, and thank you so much.
And this is Board Member Betson. I just wanted to let you know, as being new, I also do appreciate us taking the time going through it and looking at, getting the explanation. So thank you.
Okay, any more questions? All right, if there are no more questions, our next item is consideration for approval of gifts, grants, and donations of more than $5,000. So we have one donation of $5,000 to Title I Homeless Project from a law firm, McGinn, Montoya, Love, Curry, and Severs, PA. Is that a law firm? I think so. And number two, donation of $10,000, $10,140 to Reginald Chavez Elementary School from Old Town Farm Bike in Coffee.
Madam Chair, Board Members, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. The next agenda item is consideration of approval for the donations. I do have Mr. Turnbull on the meeting if you have any questions, so we stand for questions.
I have no questions. Other board members?
I have no questions. This is Board Member Betson.
Mr. Turnbull, is there anything you want to tell us about these gifts?
No, Board Member, Chair, Madam Chair. There was documentation included. Of course, if there's any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer those.
Okay, I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Any other questions from the rest of the board? Okay, with no questions, our next item is to consider approval of statement of equipment to be taken out of service from October 1 to November 30th, 2025. And our presenters are Ms. Renette Apodaca, Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Brian Allison, Senior Director, Capital Fiscal Services. Ms. Apodaca and Mr. Allison, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Board Members, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. The next item for approval is for equipment or assets, as Ms. Hicks had talked about earlier, that are going to be taken out of service and up for disposal. This is in accordance with New Mexico state law. And I do have Mr. Allison on the meeting for any additional information or questions. Or
I
did
have
he?
no questions.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I apologize. I'm in a peculiar situation as you're watching me. I was in one of our APS buildings. I didn't realize they closed at 4 and I'm having to leave. So I am walking off of one of our APS sites right when we got to my turn. So my apologies.
Okay, it's okay. No apologies necessary. Do any other board members have questions?
I'm sorry, ma'am, will you repeat that?
Oh, I was just asking my fellow board members if they had any questions. It's just a statement of equipment. So with no other questions, we can move to the next agenda item. So our next item is to consider approval of the district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds 500,000 for professional design services, West Side Special Education Facility. Our presenters are Ms. Renette Apodaca, Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Adrienne Sanchez, Executive Director Procurement, and Dr. Antonio Gonzalez, Deputy Superintendent Operations, as well as Ms. Karen Alarid, Executive Director Capital Construction.
Okay. Madam
Ms.
Chair.
Apodaca, Ms. Sanchez, you have the floor.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, this agenda item is to obtain approval to purchase professional design services for the West Side Special Education Facility. APS did issue a request for qualification, and the awarded vendor would be Design Plus LLC. And the project is expected to be 1.6 million using capital funds for this design services.
Okay, you said 1.6 million? Okay. Okay, I have no questions at this time. Where is, so this is West Side Special Education Facility. Where exactly is it located? I changed my mind. I had a question.
It's on the Chaparral campus.
Okay, Chaparral. And we are getting close to the 1 hour mark, but when we have a future budget that exceeds 500,000, can you please provide an explanation of the bidding process for us in the next meeting? Like if we have a big item exceeding 500,000, I'd like to know how many people submitted, you know, the RFP, how many people submitted bids and so forth.
Sorry. Ms. Apodaca, did you want to answer that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a summary sheet that's part of your packet. In the summary sheet, it lists the offers that submitted an offer, so you can see how many proposals we got, and then it has the evaluation criteria, which is set by the State of New Mexico Procurement Code, and it has all of the evaluation points and the ranking, and that's all in accordance with the State of New Mexico Procurement Code.
Okay, that's great. We might want to think about making that information more public. I'm not saying we have to do it right now. It's just something to bookmark, something we want to think about, so we have transparency on some of these very large products. So any other questions from board members?
Madam Chair, if I might.
Of course.
Thank you. Just to kind of clarify a little bit, if we look at the board report on the contract summary, all of this stuff is public. So none of the information that is being shared with us today hasn't already been posted and is public. So if you look at the second page under 4.7 where it says board report, and then if you click on pending or recently awarded bids and RFPs, it opens up a document on the website that shows that all of this material is already made public. So
Okay.
I just want to clarify, because I want to clarify that we're not seeing any of this stuff for the first time, and that it's not being hidden, that it is public information.
Okay, I really appreciate that, Board Member Jackson. That's really helpful. We might want to have a conversation about how to let the community know how to access that information, but not now, just something I'm thinking about. Sitting next to the Madam President. Okay, so any other questions? But thank you so much, Board Member Jackson. That's really helpful. Of course, you know, you're more experienced than some of us, including myself, and we're sort of just getting the hang of this. So we appreciate having your expertise and experience to educate us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move to the next agenda item. Our next item is to consider approval of district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds 500,000 for professional design services at Whittier Elementary School for a new classroom block and administration. And our presenters are Ms. Renata Apodaca and Ms. Adrienne Sanchez, as well as Dr. Antonio Gonzalez and Ms. Alarid.
Yes, Madam Chair, Board Members, Superintendent Dr. Blakey, this is consideration for approval for expenditures for professional design services for Whittier Elementary School, new classroom block and administration. Albuquerque Public, in your packet, you'll have the action memo. And as Board Member Jackson said, there is a board report that links to the actual RFP that was issued by Albuquerque Public Schools. And we also have the summary, so you can see the different architect firms that submitted, and also the evaluation criteria and the points. The evaluation criteria is set by state statute, so we follow that. We also have them in rank order, and we stand for any questions.
Do board members have any questions? Okay, we have no questions, so we'll move to the next agenda item. Our next item is to consider approval of December 2025 cash disbursements. And our presenter is Ms. Apodaca. Ms. Apodaca, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Dr. Blakey. This item is approval of our December 2025 cash disbursements. Per the PSAB Supplement 7, these disbursements should be presented to the local school board for approval. So this meets those requirements.
Okay, could you just share the screen on that one?
Let me see. Apologize. Let me. It'll take me 1 second. My computer's a little slow, so I apologize for that.
Renette, I can
Yes.
share my screen.
Yes,
for
please.
you. Okay.
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Is it there?
Sure. If you want to go to the first page, and we'll scroll down.
Or scroll down?
Go up. Up, sorry.
Sorry. Here, and then I'll.
Okay, so this is the second page in your packet. So we have the expense types each
Okay.
month for this fiscal year, and then we have a graph.
Can you make it a little bigger, please, Ms. Apodaca? Okay.
So,
Mhm. Okay, can I go ahead and continue?
Yes, please, Ms.
Okay.
Apodaca.
So we have this graph here that shows you for this fiscal year, starting in July, the different expenditures. And you can see there's contract services, equipment, other non-compensation, professional development, software, substitute supplies. If you scroll down, we also have that in a bar graph for the same information. And if you scroll down, we have the different categories, a summary of the categories and the amounts. And then if we
Mhm.
scroll down, we have every single check with the vendor and the amount of the disbursement. So right here you can see it has the check number, the expense type, a description, the vendor, and the amount. So that's the detail of each one of those.
Okay, that's very helpful, Ms. Apodaca. I appreciate it. Okay, there are 68 pages on this, so do any board members have questions?
I do not. This is Board Member Betson.
Okay, so given that there are no questions, please let's move to the next agenda item. So we've had a very detailed discussion here, and we certainly appreciate the expertise of our staff and their patience in explaining to the new board members. So thank you very much for that. So we are going to consider recommending the consent agenda board approval of items discussed during the January 29th, 2026 Finance Committee, including December inter and intra function transfers for grant budget, December inter and intra function transfers for all non-categorical funds, gifts, grants, and donations of more than 5,000, a statement of equipment to be taken out of service, as well as district purchase or expenditures that equal or exceed 500,000, including professional design services for the West Side Special Education Facility and professional design services for the Whittier Elementary School, new classroom block and administration. And finally, December 2025 cash disbursements. So may I request a motion and a second to consider this agenda item?
I move to recommend consent agenda board approval of items discussed during the January 29th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting, including the items listed by the chair.
I will second. This is Board Member Astorga.
Okay, Board Member Courtney Jackson motion to approve the consent agenda, and Board Member Janelle Astorga seconded. Is there any discussion? Quite a bit of discussion previously. May I please ask for a roll call vote?
Janelle Astorga,
Yes.
Rebecca Betson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson,
Yes.
Marikia Bowman.
Yes. So the motion has carried, and these items, once approved, will be on the consent agenda at the February 4th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. So our next item is to announce the next Finance Committee meeting, Thursday, February 26, 2026 at 3 p.m. It's held virtually, and the public can watch on the APS Board of Education YouTube channel. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.